2016, a man walked into Comet Ping Pong, a pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C., carrying a rifle. He believed he was stepping into a child trafficking operation run by powerful political figures. He believed in coded emails that had exposed it. He believed children were being held inside. But there was no basement, no hidden rooms, no evidence supporting these claims. Shots were fired, and thankfully no one was physically harmed. He was later arrested, and he said he genuinely believed what he had read online. 3 years later, in July 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. Unlike Pizzagate, this was not an internet theory. It involved federal indictments, sworn victim testimony, financial records and flight logs. His earlier 2008 plea deal had already raised concerns about institutional protection. By 2019, something was undeniable. A wealthy, well-connected individual had operated a documented abuse network for years while maintaining elite social relationships. This reality changed how people viewed everything that had come before. Then in 2026, millions of pages of Epstein-related documents were publicly released. Emails, travel manifests, civil filings, financial records. The release did not confirm Pizzagate specifically. It did not tie Comet Ping Pong to trafficking, but the scale of elite connections and documented abuse reopened a question for many people. Was Pizzagate completely detached from reality? Or was it a distorted interpretation of a broader truth? Pizzagate began during the 2016 US presidential election, after WikiLeaks released John Podesta's emails. Online communities analysed thousands of routine messages about scheduling and social events. Words like pizza and cheese were interpreted as coded references to child trafficking. From there, a narrative formed that a DC pizzeria was the centre of a political trafficking ring. Law enforcement investigated, journalists reviewed the claims. No evidence supported the allegation that Comet Ping Pong was operating a trafficking hub. No victims were found, no criminal charges emerged from those accusations. That's the factual record regarding the location and the specific individuals named. But here's the nuance often lost in the debate. The suspicion that powerful people could engage in or conceal abuse was not an absurd concept in itself. History contains real examples of this. Epstein's case is one of them. So while the specific claims tied to the restaurant were unsupported, the broader category of concern, elite exploitation networks, are not fiction. That distinction is important. Jeffrey Epstein's case demonstrated that wealth and influence can intersect with exploitation and delayed accountability. Victims testified, financial records corroborated payments, travel logs documented movements between properties. Yet the 2008 plea deal shielded not only Epstein, but unnamed associates from federal prosecution. This wasn't speculation, it was a documented case in court. When the 2026 files were released in January, they expanded the public view of how extensive his social connections were. Politicians, business leaders, academics, celebrities, appearing in contact books, emails, and flight logs. Presence in contact lists do not equal criminality, but it reinforces something unsettling. Proximity to power and proximity to wrongdoing can overlap. For many observers, that overlap made earlier suspicions feel less outlandish than they once did. But feeling less outlandish is still not the same as being validated. The reason people connect Pizzagate and Epstein isn't random. The stories share structural elements. Large document dumps, elite social networks, secrecy, public distrust of institutions, online communities, crowdsourcing interpretation. When massive archives are released, most people don't read them line by line. Instead, fragments begin to circulate online. Screenshots start to trend. The words are isolated, and patterns begin to form. Interpretation becomes decentralized and fast-moving. This is exactly what happened with the Podesta emails. It also happens with Epstein documents. The similarity is architectural, but architecture is not evidence. Pizzagate proposed a specific location, specific actors, and a specific trafficking model tied directly to the site. Investigations found absolutely no evidence supporting that claim. Epstein's operations centered on his own properties and recruitment methods. That was supported by testimony and documentation. Same thematic category, elite abuse, different factual foundation. Pizzagate does feel closer to reality after Epstein. It's confirmation that elite abuse networks do exist. Before 2019, the idea of a well-connected financier operating a trafficking ring with global contacts might have sounded implausible to some. But after Epstein, it's historically documented. That shift in plausibility changes the perception. But plausibility is still not proof. The existence of one verified criminal network does not retroactively confirm unrelated allegations. What it does do is lower the psychological barrier to believing that powerful individuals can coordinate wrongdoing, because it's true. In an environment where trust in institutions is already fragile, that matters. It creates a climate where people are more willing to entertain structural similarities, even when the details do differ. Humans are pattern seeking. When real corruption is exposed, the mind scans for other places it might exist. Similar language, overlapping names, shared social circles. These become signals in a broader search for coherence. But patterns require corroboration before they become evidence. The Epstein case, corroboration came from victims, financial trails, prosecutable conduct. In the Pizzagate allegations, it tied to a specific restaurant that corroboration did not materialize in. Maintaining that distinction is not about dismissing concern. It's about protecting the line between the investigation and assumptions. Because when that line blurs, consequences can follow, as 2016 demonstrated. The two realities can exist at the same time. The specific claims about Comet Ping Pong were unsupported and led to dangerous consequences. Jeffrey Epstein's crimes were real and involved elite connections that exposed serious institutional failures. Acknowledging the second does not validate the first, but ignoring the second makes it harder to understand why the first gained traction. The real lesson isn't about defending a theory or dismissing suspicion. It's about precision. Precision in the claims, precision in your evidence, precision in distinguishing thematic similarity from factual linkage. In the digital age, large information releases and low institutional trust create fertile ground for narrative construction. Some narratives uncover truth, others overextend their patterns beyond proof. Understanding how Pizzagate and Epstein intersect in public imagination requires separating emotion from documentation, without pretending that elite corruption is impossible. Because it isn't, but neither is misinterpretation. And knowing the difference is where responsible analysis begins.